The 7 Lies of Success. The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven. Those are the words by John Moulton. The world we live in today is the world we choose to live in, whether consciously or unconsciously. If we choose bliss, that's what we get. If we choose misery, we get that too. As we learned in the previous chapters, belief is the foundation of excellence. Our beliefs are specific, consistent organizational approaches to perception. They are the fundamental choices we make about how to perceive our lives and thus how to live them. They are how we turn on or turn off our brain. So the first step toward excellence is to find the beliefs that guide us toward the outcomes we want. The path to success consists of knowing your outcome, taking action, knowing what results you're getting, and having the flexibility to change until you're successful. The same is true of beliefs. You have to find the beliefs that support your outcome, the beliefs that get you where you want to go. If your beliefs don't do that, you have to throw them out and try something new. People are sometimes put off when I talk about the lies of success. Who wants to live by lies? But all I mean is we don't know how the world really is. We don't know if the line is concave or convex. We don't know if our beliefs are true or false. What we can know, though, is if they work, if they support us, if they make our lives richer, if they make us better people, if they help us and help others. The word lies is used in this chapter as a consistent reminder that we do not know for certain exactly how things are. Once we know the line is concave, for example, we are no longer free to see it as convex. The word lie does not mean to be deceitful or dishonest, but rather is a useful way to remind us that no matter how much we believe in a concept, we should be open to other possibilities and continuous learning. I suggest you look at these even 7 beliefs and decide whether they are useful for you. I've found them time again in successful people I have seen. To model success, we have to start with the belief systems of excellence. I've found that these 7 beliefs is empowered to use more, do more, take greater action, and produce greater results. I'm not saying they're the only useful beliefs of success, but they are a start. They worked for others, and I'd like to see if they can work for you and me. Belief number 1. Everything happens for a reason and a purpose, and it serves us. Remember the story of W. Mitchell? What was the central belief that helped him overcome adversity? Well, he decided to take what happened to him and make it work for him in whatever way he could. In the same way, all successful people have the uncanny ability to focus on what is possible in a situation, what positive results could come from it. No matter how much negative feedback they get from the environment, they think in terms of possibilities. They think that everything happens for a reason, and it serves them. They believe that every adversity contains the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. I can guarantee you that people who produce outstanding results think this way. Think about it in your own life. There are an infinite number of ways to react to any situation. Let's say your business fails to get a contract or you had counted on one that you were certain to get. Some of us would be hurt and frustrated. We might sit home and mop or go out and get drunk. Some of us would be mad. We might blame the company that awarded the contract, figuring they had a bunch of ignorant individuals. Or we might blame our own people for running a short thing. All of that might allow us to let off some steam, but it doesn't help us. It doesn't bring us any closer to our desired outcome. It takes a lot of discipline to be able to retrace your steps. Learn painful lessons and mend fences, and take a look at new possibilities. But that's not the only way to get a positive outcome from what seems like a negative result. Let me give you a good example of possibility. Marilyn Hamilton, a former teacher, beauty queen, a successful businesswoman in Fresno, California, she's also the survivor of a terrible accident. When she was 29, she fell down a rocky cliff, a hang gliding accident that left her in a wheelchair, paralyzed below the waist. Marilyn Hamilton certainly could have focused on a lot of things she could not longer do. Instead, she focused on the possibilities that were open to her. She managed to see the opportunity in tragedy. From the start, she was frustrated with her wheelchairs. She found them to be confining, too restrictive. Now, you or I probably wouldn't have idea how to judge the effectiveness of a wheelchair. But Marilyn Hamilton could. She figured she was uniquely equipped to design a better one. So she got together with two friends who built hang gliders and started working on a prototype for a better wheelchair. The three went on to form a company called Motion Designs. It is now a $1 million company success story that revolutionized the wheelchair industry and went on to become California's Small Business of the Year for 1984. They hired their first employee in 1981 and now have employees that are more than 800 dealers. I don't know if Marilyn Hamilton ever consciously sat down and tried to figure out her beliefs, but she operated from a dynamic sense of possibility, a sense of what she could do. Virtually all great success from the same frame. Take a moment to think about your beliefs. Do you generally expect things to work out well or to work out poorly? Do you expect your best efforts to be successful or do you expect them to be thwarted? Do you see the potential in a situation or do you see the roadblocks? Many people tend to focus on the negative more than the positive. The first toward changing, that is to recognize it. Belief in limits creates limited people. The key is to let go of those limitations and operate from a higher set of resources. The leaders in our culture are the people who see possibilities, who can go into a desert and see a garden. Impossible? What happened in Israel? If you have a strong belief in possibility, it's like you'll achieve it. Belief number 2, there is no such thing as failure, there are only results. This is almost a corollary belief to number 1, and it's equally important on its own. Most people in our culture have programmed to fear this thing called failure. Yet all of us can think of times when we wanted one thing and got another. We've all flunked a test, suffered through a frustrating romance that didn't work out, put together a business plan to see everything go awry. I've used those words, outcome and results, throughout this book because that's what successful people see. They don't see failure. They don't believe in it. It doesn't compute. People always succeed in getting some sort of results. The super successes of our culture aren't people who do not fail, but simply people who know that if they try something and it doesn't give them what they want, they've had a learning experience. They use that what they've learned and simply try something else. They take some new actions and produce new results. Think about it. What is the one asset, the one benefit you have today over yesterday? The answer, of course, is experience. People who fear failure make internal representations of what might not work in advance. This is what keeps them from taking the very action that could ensure the accomplishment of their desires. Are you afraid of failure? Well, how do you feel about learning? You can learn from every human experience and can thereby always succeed in anything you do. Mark Twain once said, "There is no sadder sight than a young pessimist." Is right. People who believe in failure are almost guaranteed a mediocre existence. Failure is something that is just not perceived by people who achieve greatness. They don't dwell on it. They don't attach negative emotions to something that doesn't work. Let me share someone's life history with you. This was a man who failed at business at age 21. He was defeated in legislative race at 22. He failed again in business at age 24. He overcome death and his sweetheart at age 26. Had a nervous breakdown at 27, lost congressional race at age 34. At age 36, he lost yet another congressional race. At age 45, he lost a senatorial race. At 49, he lost another race again and was elected President of the United States at age 52. That man's name was Abraham Lincoln. Could he have become president if he had seen these events of his life as failures? It's not likely. There's a famous story about Thomas Edison. After he tried 9,999 times to perfect the light bulb and didn't succeed, someone asked him, "Are you going to have 10,000 failures?" He answered, I didn't fail. I just discovered another way not to invent the electric light bulb. He had discovered how another set of actions had produced a different result. William Shakespeare once said, "Our doubts are traitors and make us lose the good we often might win by fearing to attempt." Winners, leaders, masters are people with personal power. All understand that if you try something and do not get the outcome you want, it's simply feedback. You use that information to make final distinctions about what you need to do to produce the results you desire. Buckminster Fuller once said, "Whatever humans have learned had to be learned as a consequence only of trial and error experience. Humans have learned only through mistakes." Sometimes we learn from our mistakes, sometimes from the mistakes of others. Take a minute to reflect on the 5 greatest so-called failures in your life. What did you learn from those experiences? Chances are that they were some of the most valuable lessons you've ever learned in your life. Fuller uses the metaphor of a ship's rudder. He says when a rudder of a ship is angled to one side or another, the ship tends to keep rotating beyond the helmsman's intention. He has to correct the rotation, moving it back toward the original direction in a never-ending process of action and reaction, adjustment and correction. Picture that in your mind, a helmsman on a quiet sea, gently guiding his boat toward its destination by coping with thousands of inevitable deviations from its course. It's a lovely image, and it's a wonderful model for the process of living successfully. But most of us don't think that way. Every error, every mistake tends to take an emotional baggage. It's a failure. It reflects badly on us. For example, many people get down on themselves because they're overweight. Their attitude about being overweight doesn't change anything. Instead, they could embrace the fact that they've been successful in producing a result called excess fat and that they're going to produce a new result called being thin. They would produce this new result by producing new actions. If you're not sure what actions to take to produce this result, then take special note of Chapter 10 or model someone who's produced the result called being thin. Find out about what specific action that person produces mentally and physically to consistently remain thin. Produce the actions and you will produce the same results. As long as you regard your excess weight as a failure, you'll be immobilized. However, the minute you change it to result you're produced, therefore one you can change now, then your success is assured. Belief in failure is a way of poisoning the mind. When we store negative emotions, we affect our psychology, our thinking process, and our state. One of the greatest limitations for most people is their fear of failure. Dr. Robert Schuller, who teaches the concept of possibility thinking, asks a great question. What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? Think about it. How would you answer that? If you really believed you could not fail, you might take a whole new set of actions and produce powerful new desirable results. Wouldn't you be better off trying them? Isn't that the only way to grow? So I suggest you start realizing right that there's no such thing as failure. There are only results. You always produce a result. If it's not the one you desire, you can change your actions and you'll produce new results. Cross the word failure, circle the word outcome in this book, and commit yourself to learning from every experience that you encounter. Now, belief number 3, whatever happens, take responsibility. Another attribute great leaders and achievers have in common is that they operate from the belief that they create in their world. The phrase you'll hear time and again is, "I am responsible, I'll take care of it." It's not coincidental you hear the same viewpoint over and over. Achievers tend to believe that no matter what happens, whether it's good or bad, they created it. If they didn't cause it by their physical actions, maybe they did by the level and tenor of their thoughts. Now, I don't know if this is true. No scientist can prove that our thoughts create our reality, but it's a useful lie. It's an empowering belief. That's why I choose to believe in it. I believe that we generate our experiences in life, either by behavior or by thought, and what we can learn from all of them. If you don't believe that you're creating your world, whether it be your success or your failures, then you're at a very messy of circumstances. Things just happen to you. You're an object, not a subject. Let me tell you, if you had that belief, I'd check out now and look for another culture, another world, another planet. Why be there? Why be here if you're just the product of random outside forces? Taking responsibility is, in my opinion, one of the best measures of a person's power and maturity. It's also an example of beliefs supporting other beliefs, of the synergical capacities of coherent system of beliefs. If you don't believe in failure, if you know you'll achieve your outcome, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain by taking responsibility. If you're in control, you'll succeed. Now, John F. Kennedy had this belief system. Dan Rather once said Kennedy became a true leader during the Bay of Pigs incident, when he stood before the American people and said that the Bay of Pigs was an atrocity that should never have happened. And then he took full responsibility for it. When he did that, he was transformed from an able young politician to a real leader. Kennedy did what every great leader must. Those who take responsibility are in power. Those who avoid it are disempowered. The same principle of responsibility holds true on a personal level as well. Most of us have had the experience of trying to express a positive emotion to someone else. We try to tell someone we love them or we understand a problem they're having, and instead of getting that positive message, they pick up a negative one instead. They get upset or hostile. Often our tendency is to get upset right back, to blame them, to hold them responsible for whatever ill will is generated. That's the easy way out, but not always the wisest. The fact is, your communication may have been the trigger. You can still produce the communication result you desire if you remember your outcome. That is the behavior you want to create. It's up to you to change your behavior, your tone of voice, your facial expressions, and so on. We say that the meaning of communication is the response you get. By changing your reactions, you can change your communication. By retaining responsibility, you retain the power to change the result you produce. Now, belief number 4. It's not necessary to understand everything to be able to use everything. Many successful people live by another useful belief. They don't believe they have to know everything about something in order to use it. They know how to use what's essential without feeling a need to get bogged down in every detail of it. If you study people who are in power, you'll find they have a working knowledge about a lot of things, but often have little mastery of each and every detail of their enterprise. We talked in the first chapter about how modeling can save people one of our irreplaceable resources, time. By observing successful people to discover what specific actions they create to produce results, we are able to duplicate their actions and thus their results in much less time. Time is one of the things no one can create for you, but achievers invariably manage to be time missers. They exact the essence from a situation, take out what they need, and don't dwell on the rest. Of course, if they intrigued by something, if they want to understand how a motor works or how a product is manufactured, they take the extra time to learn. But they're always aware of how much they need. They always know what's essential and what's not. I'll bet that if I asked you to explain how electricity works, you would come up with something between a blank and a sketchy answer. But you're still happy to flick the switch and turn on the lights. I doubt that many of you are sitting at home right now reading this book by candlelight. Successful people are essentially good at making distinctions between what is necessary for them to understand and what is not. In order to effectively use the information in this book, in order to effectively use all you are in life, you should discover that there's a balance between use and knowledge. You can spend all your time studying the roots, or you can learn to pick the fruit. Successful people aren't necessarily the ones with the most information, the most knowledge. There were probably plenty of scientists and engineers at Stanford or Caltech who knew more about the computer circuitry than Steve Jobs or Steve Wozniak, but they were some of the most effective at using what they had. They were the ones who got the results. Belief number 5. People are your greatest resource. Individuals of excellence, that is, people who produce outstanding results, almost universally have a tremendous sense of respect and appreciation for people. They have a sense of team, a sense of common purpose and unity. If there's any insight at the art of the new generation of business books like Innovation and Entrepreneurship in Search of Excellence or The 1 Minute Manager, it's that there's no long-lasting success without a rapport among people. That the way to succeed is to form a successful team that's working together. We've all seen reports on Japanese factories where workers and management eat in the same cafeteria and where both have input into the evaluating performance. Their success reflects the wonders that can be achieved when we respect people rather than trying to manipulate them. When Thomas J. Peters and Robert H. Waterman Jr., authors of In Search of Excellence, distilled the factors that made companies great, one of the key things they found was a passionate attention to people. There was hardly a more pervasive theme in excellent companies than respect for the individual. They wrote, "The companies that succeeded were the ones that treated people with respect and with dignity. The companies that viewed their employees as partners, not as tools." They note that in one study, 18 out of 20 Hewlett-Packard executives interviewed said the company's success depended on HP's people-oriented philosophy. Hewlett-Packard isn't a retailer dealing with the public or a service company dependent on goodwill. It's dealing at the most complex frontiers of modern technology. But even there is clear that dealing effectively with people is seen as a preeminent challenge. Like many of the beliefs listed here, this one is easy to gullible mouth than to actually adapt. It's easy to pay lip service to the idea of treating people, whether in your family or in your business, with respect. It's not always so easy to do it. Keep in mind that the image of a helmsman readjusting a ship's path as it moves toward its destination. It's the same with life. We have to constantly remain alert, readjust our behavior and recalibrate our actions to make sure we're going where we want to go. To say you treat people with respect and to do it are not the same thing. Those who succeed are the most effective in saying to others, "How can we do this better? How can we fix this? How can we produce greater results?" They know that one man alone, no matter how brilliant, will find it very difficult to match the collaborative talents of an effective team. Belief number 6, work is play. Do you know any person who has achieved massive success by doing what he hates? I don't. One of the keys to success is making a successful marriage between what you do and what you love. Pablo Picasso once said, "When I work, I relax. Doing nothing or entertaining visitors makes me tired." Maybe we don't paint as well as Picasso, but we can all do our best to find work that invigorates and excites us. And we can bring to whatever we do at work many of the aspects that we do at play. Mark Twain said, "The secret of success is making your vocation your vacation." That's what successful people do. We hear a lot about workaholics these days, and there are some people whose work has become something of an unhealthy obsession. They don't seem to get any pleasure out of their work, but they reach the point where they can't do anything else. Researchers are finding surprising things about some workaholics. There are some people who seem manically focused on work because they love it. It challenges them, it excites them, it makes their life richer. These people tend to look at the work way most of us look at play. They see it as a way to stretch themselves, to learn new things, to explore new avenues. Are some jobs more conducive to this than others? Of course, they are. The key is to work your way toward these jobs. One of those upward spirals is at work here. If you can be creative, if you can find creative ways to do your job, it will help you move toward work that's even better. If you decide work is mere drudgery, just a way to bring back home a paycheck, chances are it will never be anything more. We talked earlier about the synergic nature of a coherent belief system, the way positive beliefs support other positive beliefs. This is another example. I don't think there are any dead-end jobs. There are only people who have lost the sense of possibility. People who have decided not to take responsibility. People who have decided to believe in failure. I'm not suggesting you have to work to become a workaholic. I'm not suggesting you should choose to orient your world around your work, but I am suggesting that you will enrich your world and enrich your work if you bring it to the same curiosity and vitality you bring to your play. Belief number 7. There's no abiding success without commitment. Individuals who succeed have a belief in the power of commitment. If there's a single belief that seems almost inseparable from success, it's that there's no great success without great commitment. If you look at the successful people in any field, you'll find they're not necessarily the best and the brightest, the fastest and the strongest. You'll find they're the ones with most commitment. The great Russian ballerina Anna Pavlova once said, "To follow without halt, one aim, that's the secret of success." It's just another way of stating our ultimate success formula. Know your outcome, model what works, take action, develop the sensory acuity to know what you're getting, and keep refining it until you get what you want. We see this in any field, even those where natural ability would seem to have the strongest hold. Take sports. What makes Larry Bird one of the best players in basketball? A lot of people are still wondering. He's slow, he can't jump. In a world of graceful gazelles, he sometimes looks like he's playing in a slow motion. But when you come right down to it, Larry Bird succeeds because he has a massive commitment to success. He practices harder, he has more mental toughness, he plays harder, he wants it more. He gets more out of his skills than almost anyone else. Pete Rose has made his way into the record books the same way, by consistently using his commitment to excellence as a force driving him to put everything he's got into everything he does. Tom Watson, the great golfer, was nothing special at Stanford. He was just another kid on the team. But his coach did marvels about Watson, saying, "I never saw anyone practice more. The difference in pure physical skills between athletes seldom tells you anything. It's the quality of commitment that separates good from great." Commitment is an important component of success in any field. Before he hit the big day, Dan Rather was a legend as the hardest working television newsman in Austin. They still talk about the time he did a spot hanging onto a tree as a hurricane roared toward the Texas coast. I had someone talking about Michael Jackson the other day, saying that Jackson was an overnight wonder. Overnight wonder? Does Michael Jackson have great talent? Sure he does, and he's been working at it since he was 5 years old. He's been entertaining since then, practicing his singing, perfecting his dancing, writing his songs. Sure, he had some great natural talent. He was also brought up in an environment that supported him. He developed belief systems that nurtured him. He had many successful models available to him. He had a family that guided him. Yet the bottom line was that he was willing to pay the price. I like to use the term WIT, whatever it takes. WIT, whatever it takes. Successful people are willing to do whatever it takes. That, as much as anything else, is what separates them from the pack. Are there other beliefs that foster excellence? Sure there are. When you think of them, so much the better. Throughout this book, you should be aware of additional distinctions or insights that you can add. Remember, success leaves clues. Study those who succeed. Find out about the key beliefs they hold that enhance their ability to take effective action consistently and produce outstanding results. These 7 beliefs have done wonders for others before you, and I believe they can do wonders for you if you commit yourself to them consistently. I can almost hear some of you thinking, well, that's a big if. But what if I have beliefs that don't support you? What if your beliefs are negative or not positive? How do we change beliefs? You've already taken the first step, and that is awareness. You know what you want. The second step is action, learning to control your internal representations and beliefs, learning how to run your brain. So far, we've begun to put together the pieces that I believe lead to excellence. We started with the idea that information is the commodity of kings, that master communicators are those who know what they want and who take effective actions, varying their behavior until they achieve their outcomes. In Chapter 2, we've learned that the pathway to excellence is through modeling. If you can find people who have created massive success, you can model the specific actions they consistently take that produce results, their beliefs, mental syntax, and physiology. So if you can produce similar results in a shorter learning time, in Chapter 3 we talked about the power of state. We've seen how powerful, resourceful and effective behavior neurosurgically state. We've learned about the nature of belief, how empowering beliefs unlock the door to excellence. In this chapter we explore the 7 beliefs that are the cornerstone of excellence. Now I'm going to share with you powerful techniques that can help you make use of what you've learned. It's